Hello and welcome to my channel. Tonight we are going to talk about astral temples and astral travel and working within that realm within witchcraft. So tonight I have with me Morgan and Vinnie Tredici. If you guys would like to introduce
Hi
yourselves.
guys, I am Vinny. She's
And
Morgan.
I'm Morgan. Vinny's actually been doing this a lot longer than I have. He's been doing it for 33 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. How did you get started into working with astral temples and astral travel?
It was sort of something that just came about. I was having surgery because I have CP, cerebral palsy. And I was stuck in a cast from my tips of my toes to the top of my belly button. So I knew I couldn't set up, your traditional sort of, whole deal, your candles and everything that goes along with your accoutrement, so to speak. So I said, you know what? Let's try this. So I was like, well, maybe I can go into my head and do it. And I was like, well, how does that work? So I began to, how you would, I guess, pray, but not necessarily, think and go deep inside the head. And that's how it began. I mean, but Lucifer was obviously the first one to really put it in perspective for me. Because coming from a Catholic standpoint, because during that particular surgery, it was extremely painful. And, for 3 days after that surgery, I was asking for help. God, please help take this pain away. Well, 3 days went by, nobody answered. I said, the hell with it. Why not ask for the Dark One to come along? What do you know? He did. So an old man came in the room in that, I guess, old man type outfit. I don't know, for the, pair of jeans and simple t-shirt. Sat at the edge of the bed, put his hand on the one leg. Within minutes, the pain was gone. And, that started the left-hand path for me. But in terms of learning how to do the astral stuff, that's how it, having to be stuck in one position every day for 2 months, not being able to really do your traditional path workings, your traditional stuff like that. That's how that began.
Interesting, yeah.
Well, it's also, sorry, yeah, we both grew up Catholic.
So did I.
For him, it was a matter of like, don't let mom know, don't let dad know what I'm doing, like,
Right.
And being the fact that he has the disability, it's not like he could go and, get all this stuff together and then hopefully quickly take it all down before his mom would find out, So
Right.
it was a necessary thing that he had to learn how to do. And I think that's really amazing because of his,
Right.
his knowledge of it, that's how I learned. I had no idea what astral magic was, I had no clue. I'd been practicing magic since I was 13, but, albeit more of a pagan type lifestyle, And then, like, now it's been 2 years, and I found out he was a Satanist.
She never knew.
Never knew. The whole time we've been married, he had never told me, And it's even like to the point where I said to him, I know that you know magic. Like, I know, like, you can do magic. And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, no, I'm telling you, like, because he's healed me before. And I could feel it. And I was like, I know you're healing me. Like, I know you're doing magic. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Silly girl, what are you talking about? Just like tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's especially important too, especially with, people who are practicing in different parts of the world that have like very strict laws against,
Yeah.
that type of thing that, they literally could be murdered for practicing in their home countries and stuff. So they can't, have fancy altars and be
Right.
out with it. So having that internalized practice is really something that is really beneficial. And because a lot of times, people get, hooked on the bells and whistles of witchcraft, of having, the fancy altar and all the statues and all the, circles and stuff like that. And, whether it's, you have, physical limitations, or, social and cultural limitations based on the country in which you live in, or, if you're in a 1,000-foot, you know, one room, Manhattan apartment, that might be a little liberal there on the 1,000-foot part.
Yeah, yeah.
But, so, I mean, like for me, I can't really set up a good circle in my house because I just don't have the space right now for it.
Right.
Hey,
I have like little
yeah.
nooks that I can do things in, but like I can't, go paint a circle in my backyard and go do things.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I also find that astral magic is wonderful when you are in an emergency situation. You could be downtown in your car and, need your magic, and you don't have your altar and your supplies and
Right.
everything with you. And as long as you're able to focus and, do that, you can bring about the astral temple and do anything you need to do anywhere. So,
Yeah, that is
that's
a really excellent point to bring up there. And I mean, for me, I've always done. I would say I was doing a lot of unintentional dream work throughout my life. That a lot of things would come to me through dreams, whether it be like something that was prophetic, or something, what with the dead coming to me in dreams, or like I look back, like I just actually stumbled upon an old Facebook post from, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, where I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's all about demonic possession in a dream, and like all these different things. And what I find fascinating is, like, as I've worked with Lucifer and Lilith and all these different entities within the astral realm, and also a little bit in the physical as well, is that they pointed back to things earlier in my life, like, yeah, that was us.
Right.
I found a dream
Yes.
journal from like 1994, and I was like, huh, by that description, that sounds like Abaddon. I didn't even think I knew who Abaddon was in 1994.
That's so awesome.
Right.
That is so cool. I love that. I love that you wrote it down and you were able to go back to that, because, you wouldn't have had that, knowledge that that's what happened.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of writing things down, so
No.
having her around has been helpful, because
Yeah. He tells me and then I write it down for him because he won't do it.
now I forget.
He won't. And I'm like, you need to understand that your gnosis also ties in most of the time with mine. Like something that happens to you, sometimes he'll get messages for me and I'll get messages for him, and vice versa. So it's like, try and write it down and keep a journal of those things, because, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've started to do, like if I'm doing a little more like channeling, but sort of like half a little bit conscious, but not really, like I'll just put like the voice memo on my phone and just have it record, and I'll just kind of like babble into the phone.
That's cool. That's
And then
really
when you're
good.
like, well, this part isn't in any language I know.
The channeling stuff is new to me. She's rather adept at it, but it's just recently began for me, so it's brand new. So I'm still in the stage where I'll babble something out of nowhere, and it'll interrupt everything that's going on, and it'll be like, I'm so sorry, I apologize. She's like, no, it's no big deal, because it happens to be something that has to do with whatever has been discussed, but it just came out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
interrupts the whole conversation.
Yeah. It's like, oh wait, hold on.
She's like, yeah. She's like, oh, you'll get used to that. I'm like, I don't think I'll ever get used to that, because it just blurts out.
And like for me, like the whole channeling thing came out by accident. Like I didn't know I could channel.
Yeah,
I had no idea that I could do that. And I had a friend at the time who had all these emotional problems and had all these issues going on in her life, and she was constantly asking me things. And during my working, my divination for her, I found out that I could channel, and I was like, holy cow, this is really cool. Like I didn't know. But also, I think a lot of it has to do with, the more that we work with spirits, we, have our Kundalini open, our third eye becomes more adept, and the more that you do the work, the more you have things happen that you can even, not just hear, but even see. And like now when I watch people's YouTube channel, like their videos, I can see stuff. Like I can see things that I could never see before. I can see spirits and movement and activity and stuff going on in the background. I'm like, there's stuff going on behind you. Like, it's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have a little more trouble seeing spirits, but like I feel them more. Like it's more of an energetic thing for me.
Right now I'm at the point where I can't see them like I see you, but I see them as energy. Like I can see the energy moving around, and then I can, like feel what type of energy that is, and it's just really cool, but the more that we work with these spirits, the more, stuff gets divulged.
Absolutely.
The
So,
whole,
yep.
the whole idea of social media is so different to me now, especially within the left-hand path. Because when I started, none of this was even a thing, none of it. And when my wife said, you really need to bring yourself aboard. I'm like, aboard what? Where we going? Are we going on a trip? She's like, no, you got to do the whole social media thing. I'm like, I don't like people. I don't like people. I hate people. I'm not going anywhere near people. And she's like,
Yeah, social
we'll
media is
do
a
it.
blessing and a curse. Mostly a curse sometimes, but
Yeah.
So she made me she made me get a Facebook and the whole 9 yards. And then people started following me, and I'm like, people like me. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't like you. Who are you? Why do you want to?
Oh, you should see some of the pictures that he gets.
Why are you asking me questions?
It's hilarious. I think it's funny. I mean, different people, both sexes, by the way, sending him, very interesting images of themselves.
Asking me questions.
It's funny. I think it's funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, you'll run into some interesting stuff that way. So I guess like one of the questions I get a lot is like, how do you start? I guess for maybe a two-part question is how do you start working in the astral? Like what tips would you give someone who's never done it before? And also in that, how do you go about constructing your astral temple?
Well, initially, I believe it's all about the energy first off.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand how to harness the energy first before you can even begin to build anything. Understand how energy works, and then once you understand that, I think that comes with practice. Once you begin to practice that, then once you really truly understand how to harness the energy, and then you can begin to sort of put the puzzle together for your astral temple.
Okay.
So that comes with time, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it was a little easier because I have a background. Like, I did a lot of work, like in Second Life, which I don't know if you're familiar with. It's sort of like a virtual worlds, virtual reality kind of thing where you build like you basically kind of almost build a virtual temple in a way in cyberspace.
Wow.
Oh wow, okay. So you
And
definitely
like
had a
World
little
of
bit.
Warcraft and things like that. So I was used to like, okay, I'm just gonna terraform a mountain right here and put in a river and burn some trees and stuff like that. So like for me, like having like a little bit of that, the technical know-how helped me just to be able to like terraform my sort of astral temple area that I work in.
So you definitely had the upper hand in terms of the understanding of how to do those things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See,
That's really.
for me, it was you're stuck in the bed, so you're stuck here for 2 months. So now you got to really understand how to get inside your own head and make it happen. I know that sounds so difficult to most people, but
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have the any other avenue, and
Mm.
you really need to you know what I mean, to really
Yeah.
get inside your own head. And yeah, that's the way to to
Well, I was just thinking it's funny. Like
go ahead.
he didn't really give me that much information.
No, I didn't.
He kind of like just let me figure it out on my own,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like, You know, you could tell me like
So
all
is
this stuff.
so
But
is the
no.
left-hand path, though. I didn't even tell her about that. So.
Yeah, no, like, and I read like so many books, you know, because when I found out, I was like, okay, Vinny is a good person. Like, I know Vinny for, you know, all this time. Him being a Satanist, like, that doesn't change who he is, but what is so fascinating and interesting about Satanism, like, what, you know, what's the big deal? So I read so many books to, you know, learn about the path, and I was like, shit, this feels like home. Like,
It's
you
the
know, and
choose
I
your
had been.
adventure of
Yes.
Magick.
Yeah, and I mean, I had already been searching anyway for something different, you know,
Yeah.
went from Catholicism to becoming a Mormon, thinking that was it, to going, okay, there's something about it, but that's not quite right either. Completely just turning on my faith completely. Like, I lost all my faith in God, and I was like, there's got to be something else. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if there's
Oh,
God,
you
like,
guys
or the
froze
God
up
that,
for
you
a
know,
minute
we were
there.
always learning about. So basically, like, it was almost like God has left the building, you know, if there was God, he's checked out, you know, and I just wanted to learn what the deal was, you know, and, you know, like I said, having practiced magic since I was 13, I already had an understanding of how magic works and, you know, the fundamentals, but learning astral magic, to me, it wasn't about like astral projecting or anything like that, but it's also more than your imagination. You know, you need to be in a meditative state and really hone in those things that you're trying to accomplish. You know, like in evocation or invocation, when you're doing it astrally, it's incredible.
Oh,
You know, the
absolutely.
invocation, obviously, you don't usually see the spirit during an invocation, but what they show you during that astral, you know, temple or whatever, it's amazing.
Yeah. It's
And
like, what
seeing what
am
they
I
see.
going to be wearing today?
And the evocation astrally is so cool because you get to see them fully manifest. You
Yeah.
know, just like completely everything. It's so cool.
I think that's one of the greatest things about understanding and being adept at astral work is that you get to see them fully, in full manifestation, which is something that a lot of people can't say. You know what I mean? You have
Yeah.
the upper hand, so to speak. You can speak on things that some people can't because you've seen them fully manifested.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like for me when I really started like honing it because I was terrible at meditation. Like if I close my eyes and try to meditate, I'm like like 100 things going on, and you know. I remember one time being at a witchy meetup, and we were going into the meditation. I'm like, fuck, I left something on at home, like it was like, crap, my brain's quiet now. I remember I'm like, I got home, I left like a hot plate on, and I forgot to lock the door, and I didn't turn I'm like, wow, I'm really hitting a miss here. But it was just like immediately as I went to that meditative state, I was like, ah, I remember all the things that I forgot or I'm supposed to do. But I found for me, like just starting out, like even if it's just like 5 minutes, just taking that time to just sit there
Yep.
and start, just to be comfortable in that space. And there's times I can just get lost in there for hours. Like it'll seem like I was in there for 20 minutes. I'll look at the clock, I'm like, 3.5 hours passed. Interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know like Lucifer helped me. He was the one who helped me to learn to quiet the mind and be able to access that, you know.
Yeah.
It certainly was not. I mean, although Vinny was helpful in many other ways.
I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
Nothing
so
at all.
working with Lucifer in the astral realm. Like, I've just always found Lucifer to be like such a comforting, protective, and healing entity.
Yeah.
absolutely. Although I do remember when I first started working with Lucifer, he, you know, when I did this pact with him, he wanted me to work only with him for an unspecified amount of time. And I agreed to that. I was like, okay, there's got to be a reason for it. You know, I'll figure it out later. And there was, you know, and that's a whole nother story. But the important thing is that he taught me all of these different things. But while I was in the astral temple with him one day, like I got there and Astaroth was in my astral temple. Now I had never worked with Astaroth ever before, right? But he was there. Lucifer shows up, and he's a giant blue dragon, and he's shooting lasers everywhere. Like, he is pissed off, thinking, like, I broke my pact. And that's not what happened. And so, after things calm down, Astaroth tells him, I came willingly. She did not call me. Like, I came to help Vinnie because I was asking Lucifer to help heal Vinnie because he had a kidney stone, and I wanted him to help him. Well, Astaroth came to lend his energies to that, and, all hell broke loose, but everything was cool. And the next day, he passed the kidney stone. So, and it was something that's been, like, bothering him for months.
Yeah.
So, it was, yeah.
It was funny, when I first started working with Lucifer, it's like, especially in the Astral Temple, it's like when you're starting to try to, like, when you're evoking them and to get that image, and it's like your brain kind of, like, puts those pop culture Lucifer images.
Sure.
Yes.
That was funny. Although I will admit, the one time Lucifer did get me with the Lucifer from the TV show, because it was like one of those things I was holding on to, like, and it was like, in order to, like, advance that, I had to admit that one thing that I didn't want to admit to myself. He's like, tell me what it is you truly desire. I'm like, fine.
Funny. My best friend sees him like that all the time. So, they really do draw upon, like, what you know in order to, access different parts of, you.
Yeah,
and what you can relate to.
I explain a lot is, like, when you're working with them, they're going to come to you and present themselves, and the realms that you're working in. It's going to be partially based on your lived experience and then your visual frame of reference.
Right.
So, like, I've noticed for me, like, sometimes when I'm traveling through different astral realms, it's got a little bit of that, like, World of Warcraft kind of video game effect to certain areas. I'm like, I feel like I've seen this somewhere before.
Lucifer still occasionally shows up. Like the day I met him when I was 12 years old, laying in that bed in a cast so many years ago.
What's ironic is that's how I first saw him, was as an elderly man. And right after that, he came to me as a child. And I thought, oh, wow, that's really interesting, So I've seen him in various different ways. But now it's usually like, he looks more like the vampire Lestat, he's like rocking that curly blonde hair.
Yeah. I've always, like, when I first started working, like, I feel like he's got this almost vampiric energy to him in that like, the sort of, I may have just been all my years as a goth, but,
Me too. Yeah.
I seem to I still see him sort of as the fallen angel with the wings.
Yeah.
Only minus the wings. But that kind of fallen angel look, when he fell from heaven, kind of that curly hair vibe.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes he almost has a little bit of, like, an anime look to him as well.
Yes.
I've seen that once. Yeah. I've seen it once or twice, yeah.
And no one can keep track of what Belial looks like at any given time.
I don't even try. Belial, yeah, he's got too many looks for me.
I don't know, like, he's always got, like, these, I don't know, what do you call them, like, the sideburns, they call them, like, the mutton chops or whatever. Yeah. He always has those for some reason whenever he comes, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, like, whatever. But he's always got, like, black.
Yeah, like, one time he showed up as, like, a cartoony-looking red cobra wearing a business suit. I'm like, how are you holding up the shoulders? Snakes don't have arms.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
That's cool.
He came to me as a busty hot chick when I was about 15 years old. I think he was just messing with my hormones, because here I was, 15-year-old kid, and what did I know? I was a hormonal 15-year-old boy.
You told me Azazel did the same thing.
Yeah. They don't have the smart ass bullshit.
They came as women, and I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Busty hot women.
Yeah, working with Belial and Azazel together is funny, because they almost have this, like, big brother, little brother kind of, like, sibling rivalry thing. Like,
yeah.
Belial's always trying to annoy him. He's just like,
Azazel, actually, I guess I hadn't been working with him enough. And apparently he had enough of it. So a couple weeks back, he decided to take his revenge out on me and toss me around my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knocked his ass down 3 times. And I was just like, what is wrong with you today? Like, you just can't stand up to save your life. Like, what is happening with you? Like, did you forget how to walk? I mean, like, because he walks with the crutches, but that's normally not a problem, And he's just, I'm like, how many times do you need to eat shit today? I mean, like, what's going on? Like,
A few times.
and and then he told me, he's like, no, I know what's going on. And I was like, what's happening? And he's like, yeah, Zazel, he's kicking my ass. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, how about you do me a favor and, like, I don't know, take care of that, because we're tired of picking you up today.
Azazel really likes cinnamon mini donuts.
Oh,
I've
really?
woken up and I'm like, why are there donuts under my pillow, Azazel?
Wow.
Like, I was doing something. I was attempting to do the Lake of Fire in the Astral, in the Astral realm. Sometimes trying to get everyone to work together, I'm like, guys, focus.
Yeah.
Zazel tells me, like, I know you have cinnamon mini donuts. I'm like, fine. So I have to get up. I'm like searching around, trying to find the cinnamon mini donuts, and Belial's being Belial. I'm like, Belial, put the goat down. And then Maimon got irked at everyone and turned into, well, originally Maimon showed up as sort of this like black winged serpent thing, and then got annoyed with everyone else, like stalling, and turned into his most truly terrifying form, and that of which of Taylor Swift.
Wow, that's a new one.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
Oh, very sorry.
That's really interesting. Although I will say, back to, like, not that this has a whole lot to do with it, but Taylor Swift's video with Brendan Urie starts off with a serpent. And if you ever watch, like, any of Panic at the Disco's videos, like, a lot of them, and his music seems very satanic. And I'm like, that's really cool, And I thought it was funny because they were collabing on this music video, and it starts off with a pink serpent. I'm like, okay, so it's pink because of Taylor Swift, but it's really in there for Brendan Urie. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But yes, there's so many interesting, like, I feel like it's so much more of a dynamic experience when you're working with these entities in the astral realm, because like getting them to manifest into, like, physically into, our living kind of existing realm, and then already being able to either see, hear, or sense their energy and presence is a whole different set of skills that people have to build up. So being able to really hone those astral skills really kind of takes it to the next level. And the gnosis you get, like, I mean, there's times where it's like, there was one weekend, it was about 18 hours when I first started the path working with Satan. And it was like, all right, I just kind of went in. I'm like, okay, I need to wake up and go do things. He's like, nope, you're coming back. I'm like, fine, I'll go lay back down.
Pulled you in.
That's really cool.
We have, like, over the course of about 18 hours worth of, like, astral work over the course of that weekend.
That's a lot.
Both of us seem to be pulled in just usually when we go to lay down for the first time all day.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get whatever we have done, and we go to lay down, and one of us or both of us will get pulled in to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, it's the next day, and we're both looking at each other like, what happened?
It's like waking up, after, a night of drinking or something and not knowing where the hell you are.
It's like I've technically been asleep for 12 hours, but I only slept for like 6 of them,
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you guys
do like when you wake up and you've been fighting? What's that?
Do you do work together at the same time in your astral temple in the astral realm? Like, do you meet up there?
Okay, so we have, like, when Vinny was doing the Lake of Fire, like you were talking about, with Azazel, I was not ready for that. I was like, that's...
You don't want to touch it.
I'm good. Like, you can go do that. I'm not doing that. I'm like, but I will go with you. And when he was doing that, I got pulled into a separate place. And it was crazy because there was a ring of women, and they were all me. and I was told that I had to choose one. And I was like thinking about it, and I was like, no, you know what? I'm not choosing any of you. I choose me because I'm the real me. I was like, no. And they were like, okay, that was the right answer, you know. And then they took me to the Egyptian sands, and I was this golden version of me, and I melted all over the golden sands of Egypt. And I felt myself melting. Like, it was the most bizarre experience.
I've had experiences like that where you kind of get you get like almost physical sensations. Because when I was first like I started working with Azazel and then switched to Satan to work to sort of experience the source energy thing.
Right.
The amount of pressure on my head, like it's like I immediately felt like my head was in a vice and I just had all this like sinus pressure from it. And my ears like have not stopped ringing since that first time.
Oh, wow.
Like I'm used to it, but I'm just sort of like, I mean, it was really bad for like the first 5 weeks. Like every day was like, I just woke up after having gone to a really loud concert. Like that level of like ringing. Really... I think I've just gotten used to it. So like, if it's really quiet, I'm like, oh yeah, my ears are still ringing.
Wow.
And that was like incredible. Maybe back in October, September, maybe.
Holy cow. I know, like, for me, I had like a physical interaction with Belial.
We all did.
When Black Dragon Immortalis was doing the 21 day invocation with Belial, I think I was on the last couple of days. And I was standing outside. It was freezing cold at the time. Well, my freezing cold and your freezing cold are probably a bit different. But it was really cold and windy, okay? And my back was really hurting because I was standing there forever. I was like waiting for my daughter to do something. And I'm sitting there like, come on already, like this is taking forever. And I was thinking, okay, so I've got my invocation to do. And just as I thought of Belial, he showed up. And he shielded me from the wind. And he took away my pain. Like the entire time he was with me, I did not feel the wind hitting my back at all. Completely shielded me from it and took away all my pain. So that was a huge, like, physical manifestation, you know, of feeling. Your baby is adorable, by the way.
Oh yeah, this is Corey. He's a little internet famous now because he always shows up in my videos. Little chonker.
He's adorable.
Yeah.
You can't see, but this is Spidey.
Oh, cute. It's kitty show and tell time.
Yeah, he's just laying here in my lap, but you couldn't see him.
He purrs so loud he sounds like a bird.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. All right, Corey, get settled.
I have a question for you. Being adept with the ability to go in and out of the astral, have you found that lately the astral work has become very popular? And with that being said, how do we, as you know, those that are adept at working in the astral, how do we sit and really explain it to those that haven't got a clue?
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of. I do get a lot of questions about that, especially like with a lot of the products I make that are made to kind of help, like with the flying ointments and tinctures and stuff. That I mean, because that really helped me when I was early, like to kind of get in the mindset because I got the crazy, you know, Gemini ADHD brain going all the time. So, you know, it's to be able to quiet it down, get more into that, like, you know, the theta state and into that right thing. Like for me, I use a lot of like meditation or like, you know, like the demonic enchants or some kind of like ambient music, you know, to kind of center everything around what I'm doing. Because also I live in the city, so, you know, I'm hearing cars go by and, you know, people yelling on the street.
I have to tell you, I miss that because, I mean, you know, I'm a kid from New York, you know, and now I live here in, you know, Countryville, so it's difficult for me to, you know, when someone beeps a horn, I look outside to see who's waiting outside. Most people are like, it's only a horn. I'm like, you never know, it could be someone looking for you. You know what I mean? Because when someone beeped the horn back home, you look outside, you see if your ride is here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Out here, they don't do none of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for me to figure it out.
Different ball game.
Different ball game altogether. West Coast, East Coast.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, I mean, it seems like there's with that sort of influx and everyone having a lot more spare time over this past year.
Oh, without, of course. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, that people are able to spend more time on these type of things and developing their skills and practices. So being able to develop the astral skills and things like that, to have that kind of experience, because can't really travel anywhere, so may as well astral travel.
Oh yeah,
right. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
I find like it feels like, okay, so I have a crystal ball, and when I'm scrying with it, that is the same kind of feeling that it feels like when you're doing astral work.
Mm-hmm.
That's a unique perspective.
Yeah, and well, I know like scrying in and of itself is a lot to learn, right? It's not something you can just pick up a crystal ball, and usually people can't just.
Yeah, I have a crystal ball. I don't know that I've ever really used it for anything.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of concentration. And what I found out is that it's actually when you stop thinking and stop trying that opens up for you. And it's the same thing with magic.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. I think I posted a picture to Facebook where, like, I just had some smoke burning during a ritual. Not even, I don't even know what it was for at this point, but I took a picture and like it was clearly Belial's sigil in the smoke.
That's
incredible. Not a sigil that just accidentally walked out of smoke.
No, it's very definite. Like, yeah, that is so awesome.
I was like,
that he definitely pays attention to you, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's definitely around you on occasion.
Yeah.
I was terrified
too. Sometimes I'm like, yes, like I'll see a fly go by. I'm like, what is it, Beelzebub?
I know.
Because in the middle of winter, there should not be like horseflies in my house.
Oh yeah, definitely not. That's definitely Beelzebub. Oh yeah.
And we have horses that are like, our neighbor has 3 horses, I think, and that's one of the biggest issues we used to have in the summertime, especially. No matter how many times you open up the screen door, you always had to deal with the horse flies. Mm-hmm. But it's winter time. We shouldn't have any flies.
Yeah.
I mean, your winter and my winter is completely different. You know what I mean?
But you know all about it because you live there.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
When it's dumping 3.5 feet of snow, and we got 6 inches, and everybody thought the world was gonna end. No. And I'm sitting there laughing.
People out here do not know how to drive in the snow. Like,
oh yeah,
let alone rain.
I'm laughing. We got 3.5 inches, and people are crying. And I remember when I couldn't even put the key in my car door because it was frozen over.
Yeah.
And it was.
You're like, I can't get out of the house, literally.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I'm out there in my shorts, and people got their gloves on and their hats, and they're cold. I'm like, it's really not that cold. It's kind of nice. And they look at my wife like, your husband's crazy. No, he's just from the East Coast. It's a different thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned earlier that, for the channeling for you is something that's come new. What I was curious about, because that for me started happening like very shortly after I had the rite of deification done by J.S. Garrett. So I was wondering, because I know you did some videos on that.
Yes.
If maybe that kind of.
You know what? You very well may have hit something on the head there, because channeling was never a thing for me.
Yeah,
never. I couldn't fathom it. Even when I met my wife, she was like, "Oh, channeling is relatively easy." I'm like, "Good for you," because I don't know what the hell you're even talking about. But now, like I said, now it just comes.
Yeah.
And because I'm not familiar with it all that much, it just comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's inappropriate because I'll just blurt it out. I'm like, where did that come from?
And you know, it's not
And my wife will,
thoughts because it's something, and nor or it's like I'm crazy, I'm hearing voices kind of thing. It's something very different from that.
yes.
Because it was like I was
Yes.
making, I was finishing up my product line for King Paimon, and I was making the incense. I'm like, this needs something to bulk it up. I was like, all right, King Paimon, what would you like in this? And I just kind of like, hear this sort of the expensive stuff. I'm a king after all.
Right.
Right on.
Like I had never
Yeah.
worked with King Paimon. He just kind of showed up. He's like, I would like my own product line, please.
That's gotta be pretty cool.
That is cool.
That's really gotta be
That
pretty
was
cool.
really, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll add you to the list.
For me, Paimon came to me because I initially asked him to help me with something way back when, and he's always been kind of there until I called him because I needed something done quickly. And when I do my stuff, when I do my requests astrally, I also use myself as a sacrifice astrally.
Mhm.
So I'll place myself down on the sacrificial table and, sacrifice myself astrally as the best offering that you can give an entity which is of yourself.
Yeah, I think I've done that a
And
few times actually. Yeah.
that's always been something that's worked really well for me. So anytime I really need something and it means something, I'll do that. And I usually within minutes get my desired results.
Yeah, I find it's the concept of space and time is so different in the astral realm because it's like when you're working with things, it's like you could like I've had Lucifer take me back to show me something that happened in the past, like to witness it in a way.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't not like something that was on like a news piece or something. It was just to show me this particular thing that happened, and or even going back and through different historical timelines and things like that, and even working with Lilith. I mean, some of that has come up too.
You've had some work with Lilith that shocked me.
Yeah. Well, what I was gonna say is that Lucifer recently showed me he did that also. Like he showed me in the past, like that he was speaking to me while I was in the womb, like seeing myself as like this barely formed fetus, like while Lucifer is like speaking to me in the womb. Like seeing that was just incredible.
I feel like I saw the same thing recently.
It's crazy, right?
Like something about that. I'm like, okay, now that you're saying that, I'm like, it's triggering a memory for me. Like literally within the past week that came up.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. And this is recent for me too. Like not within the past week, but probably like this month. Well, not February, but January. Yeah.
The blur of months that have comprised this year, or weeks, days. I don't know what they are anymore.
I don't know what.
Like what day is it? Yeah. Like who even knows?
See, and your guys' stuff is huge compared to mine. I mean, I got to see when I was a baby. They gave me less rights because they weren't sure if I was going to survive because I contracted spinal meningitis in the incubator, and that's what gave me the cerebral palsy. A few months back, I was taken back to see that moment of the priest standing over my incubator, giving me the last rites. I thought that was great, but to have Lucifer speak to you guys in the womb, that you guys blow it.
Oh, he did it with you too?
I don't remember.
He showed me. I know he did.
I don't remember that.
Part of the revelation he gave me was that he orchestrated Vincent's and I meeting, like the whole thing. He was like, this was not by happenstance. He was like, I orchestrated this, it's no, it's not unusual the two of you together because I put you together. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was very, very cool. Yeah. To get to see it all,
What I find strange is that I was able to watch her go through, obviously Catholicism because I was used to it because, as a kid. That's what I, grew up doing until I was probably like 12. And then, we did the Mormon thing for a while, which I got a kick out of because here I am, a black magician, sitting inside a, thing with a bunch of Mormons. My wife doesn't have a friggin' clue because I'm like, look, if she's gonna learn, she's gonna learn her own way. It's gonna be, her own way. I'm not gonna influence her in any way. If she finds the path, it'll be on her own accord. So I never influenced anything. Well, I can't say I never. Every time I saw the Baphomet, I always kind of, gravitated towards pictures and talismans and so forth. And she'd tell me, what the hell do you need that shit for? Like, what are you talking about? It's nice. Come on, we'll put it in the house. She's like, no, you don't need none of that. So we'd leave and I'd be all aggravated. I'd be like, but I like that. And then I'd be like, no, she's got to do it on her own. She's got to do it on her own.
Yeah, you can't like force it, on someone. Just sort of be like, you can be like, hey, here's what I do, and whatnot, and because everyone's got to come to their path of their own in their own time. Like for me, I just kind of, it's like, it's like, when did I start practicing that? Well, I've had like a lot of magical and spiritual and paranormal experiences dating back to when I was a very young child. Was I practicing magic at 5? No. But, but a lot of these things permeated throughout my life from a very young age. And, to be able, and, various things happen in life, because there was a very long stretch of time where I was not practicing at all. It was just kind of like buried. But the interesting thing about it when we talk about astral realm and dream work is up until the time I started practicing magic again, I always had this recurrent dream, and it was this location, and it was in the weirdest location. It was like, there was a mall I used to work at back in the mid 90s, and on the second floor, like next to maybe like the JC Penney's, there was this like secret, like occult bookstore. And like that was where I hid like all my magic, all my knowledge, and all that stuff. But I would always like, I could still like exactly see the layout of what this place looked like because it was recurrent in so many dreams for me. Wow. And it just was like, like bookshelves that went up like higher than a mall wall would be. With all those like leather bound books, and there's different racks, and if you went through this way and turned left, there was this like outdoor patio with like a garden and stuff. But it's like, so cool. It was always the same place, but once I started practicing magic again, it went away. So it's like, in a way, I kind of like compartmentalized and put all of it there.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And maybe that's why you were so adept at the astral stuff. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why it came so easy to you, because you had already initially
compartmentalized.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You had already put that stuff together.
And I always had very vivid dreams. Like my friends will tell me, I'm like, oh my God, guys, I have to tell you about the dream I had last night. They're like, hold on, let me get a drink.
Same.
So I think, but and what's funny is that you don't see many astral magicians around. It's real. I mean, even though we're here, it's become new to most people, and really, it's not that new.
Yeah. Because one of the things I found, especially because it was also in tandem, sort of right after I had the rite of deification in October, was that when I started working with Shemyaza, especially when I first got the amulet, and like the first time I worked with it, like I just started ping-ponging all over the place. Like I'm like flying through people's like physical homes and space and time. Like I just went like crazy, like out of the body in that way. I'm like, okay, we gotta bring this in a little, because I'm just going like here, all of these places. I'm like, okay, now I'm here now. Like literally really just cool. Tumbling through all that. So, that was an interesting, sort of like how everything kind of ties in and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've had some crazy stuff go on with Shemyaza and Astarte.
Some pretty wild stuff.
I know like everyone will hear about it soon, so we're not really at liberty to talk a lot about it. But when we were working on the like some graphic artwork for JS and Barbie Garrett, I know that because we were working on those sigils and combining them, we had some crazy, crazy things happen to us, and we were just like, oh wow, like this is insane. Like you can't not work on something and not have it affect you. Like it's
Right.
just when it comes to magical sigils, that's not how that works.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. Like it was interesting through my path working with Belial, I got over my lifelong fear of snakes, and so did my mom.
oh wow.
Wow.
I'm
That's
like, you're talking about a
amazing.
70-plus-year fear of snakes here that just went out the window this year.
Wow. That's incredible.
That's wild.
I know, like, I was terrified to work with Belial at first because, you know, you hear all these different horror stories, and I did not find him. Now, I'm not saying he cannot be terrifying. That's not at all what I'm saying. And
No.
I am not suggesting he should not be taken seriously. He deserves all that respect and more. But I found him to be very compassionate, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think like when you come at it, like when I first started working with Blah, I was expecting that. I was expecting just to be like thrown into the fire, that sort of thing. And,
Yeah.
he just said to me, he's like, look, most people come to me and start working with me. You've been path working for the past 10 years. You just didn't know it. Like through all the work I'd been doing through therapy
Right.
and, self work, like I've been doing all that stuff outside of that. So I came to it from a more advanced practitioner of having had 10 previous years of shadow work behind me. Now there's still things,
Right.
I had to work
Yeah.
on, but,
Sure.
it wasn't as, thrown into the fire intense as it was for other people.
That was literally like the same conversation I had with him. He was like, "You've been doing shadow work for a time now.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like,
there's not a whole bunch of things that I need to do." Yeah, exactly. He showed me what I needed to work on. He's like, "Don't get me wrong. Like, you need to work on this and this and this, and But he was real clear about what he wanted and what he expected. It was not like, "Okay, we're gonna try and have you figure this out for yourself." Nope. He was adamant in telling me and showing me what I needed to learn. And so I know he was like, yeah, and just in case, because like I'm the queen of loopholes. He's like, just in case you decide to get a wild hair up your ass and try and loophole me on this, go for it. I dare you. Bring it. I was like, no, 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 I'm good. I'm good. Nope. So yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed watching that one go down because she is the queen of loopholes. And
See, in
to
section
watch
7,
him.
clause B, there's a caveat there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there was no caveats here. It was direct,
Uh-huh.
and that's the way it had to be done. And I got a kick out of it. I just kind of laughed. I actually said to her, I said, "Now, are you sure you wanted to walk that path again?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Shut."
That's another thing that happened. Like I have an assistant who helps like package, and bottle a lot of stuff for me. I think at some point I had her bottling the shamyaza oil I made, and like a day or two later, she's like, "Hey, yeah, shamyaza came to me in a dream." She doesn't like work, she works more with like the Morgan and that kind of stuff, but not really a lot of left hand path things. She's like, "Yeah, shamyaza came to me in a dream." I'm like, "Yep, that's gonna happen."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll happen on
That is
on
very
occasion.
cool. Yeah.
It'll happen on occasion. I think for me, having been on this path for so long and watching my wife really flower into something completely different, because she's always worked the wider side of or lighter side of magic, and to watch her sort of blossom into this dark magician was really nice to see. Because and I guess what helps too is that she's a sponge when it comes to things she really enjoys doing. So things that took me 2 years to learn, she learned in 6 months. And
I find like
and
once you
that
start working with them, like I could just pick up a book and like be like, okay, this is like stuff I already know now as I'm reading through.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Like I
get so
was just
impatient
doing my
too.
semi-annual Buffy rewatch. You know that like the have you watched Buffy? I assume.
Yes.
So you know the Dark Willow
Yes. Not
episode
every-
where she just like goes and gets the books and you just see her absorbing all the stuff out of the books. Like sometimes that's
like
what it
the
feels like.
osmosis.
Yeah. You know, where you're just like, okay, I just sucked the knowledge out of this book. Now I know it, you know. And yeah, so it's been, yeah, because I never felt like, you know, I was always drawn to like witchcraft stuff, but I was always like, I feel more of the pull to black magic, and I wasn't, you know, everything, you know, tends to be a little more, I don't know, more Wiccan, or yeah, there's a lot of Norse stuff, and or just broadly pagan and stuff like that, or traditional witchcraft.
Now,
I just never really felt like I
did you
fit in anywhere, like I have with like the left hand path stuff.
did
I
you
think I
always
need to
have
into something.
did you always have magic around you throughout your life, or was it just something that you picked up as you grew up?
I feel like it's always been there. Like
Cool.
looking back, you know, even into early childhood and stuff, I feel like there were magical things. Like one of the first beliefs I ever had as a child when I was about 6 years old is I believed in reincarnation. Who explains reincarnation to a 6-year-old Catholic child, you know? It was just something that made sense to me because I knew I lived before.
Yeah.
Right. I get it.
That's very cool.
I completely get it. Most people wouldn't understand astral magic until that became, you know, I I thought I was the only one doing it for a long time, to be quite honest with you. Until, my wife came along and was like, actually, there are a few people out there that still do. I was like, really? I would love to know. You popped up. Connor Kendall popped up, and a few others. I was so happy to see that there were still people out there that did it, because it was a lost art, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Because everything has to be so visual all the time. It has to be, if it's not in front of your face, it's not there. Well,
Yeah.
I always thought that was bullshit. Because we all know that.
I mean, I've done some very freaking real healing work in the astral realm and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
You know, it's like I keep joking, like, you know, I want to do, what was it, the Suntalok, you know, wealth ritual things. And I'm like, it's like every time, like, even just when Barbie and JS did the like demo of it, it's like I didn't even participate in it. I just watched it and had the effects of it.
I know. I get it. I get it. Yeah, I get it. So, to see something that I've been doing for forever come, to see people still doing it, it really felt nice to know that some, important people within the, left-hand path were either practicing or continuing to practice or have begun to practice again. It was just nice to see. It was just,
yeah,
and
definitely.
believe me, I'm not taking anything away from the fantastical stuff, setting it all up and the whole fantasticalness of a true full-on, ritual. Because I love all that stuff.
That's what I always used to do.
I love the spectacle of it all.
Ceremonial magic or high magic.
But there's something beautiful about being able to go out, into your astral temple and doing some incredible stuff.
Yeah, actually, I recently told Vinny, I was like, the way I feel about it is your astral temple, your own personal astral temple, has always existed. It has always been there. It's just a matter of when you discover it. And then you can fine tune it into what you want it to be. And
then sometimes entities show up and give you gifts. Asmodeus showed up this week to give me a boudoir.
Yeah.
But not one, but two. I was like, well, I don't know where to put it. She's like, well, I didn't say you can only have one, so, I'm like, oh, Asmodeus.
Medusa gave me a snake when I was 20 in my astral temple, and I said, no disrespect, but what am I supposed to do with that? And she looked back at me and said, I don't give a shit what you do with it. It was a gift from me to you.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Azazel gave me a goat tree. So that, like, I don't know if you I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's in Morocco, there's a particular type of tree that you'll just see like 20 goats hanging out in the tree, just standing there. So I'm like, I have one of those now.
That's
cool.
That's cool as hell. That's cool as hell.
You just never know, like, what is going to happen. And that's the cool thing.
And here's something that you can always, that if you truly want to see an entity live and in person, so to speak, in full manifestation, you don't have to go very far.
Mm-hmm.
Other people, on the other hand, have to do a great deal of work to potentially see that entity in full manifestation.
Well, and that's not to say, like, I know that I think we both saw Lucifer that one day in the corner of our room.
We have.
Like, so I was doing like a regular, ceremonial magic ritual, like the whole setup, the whole 9 yards, candles, everything, right? And that was like one of my first evocations, and I was like, I don't want to do it wrong, like I don't want to make a mistake, like I don't want to screw this up, and as I'm evoking Lucifer, like he shows up in the corner of the room and he appears as this beautiful, like larger than what my room can hold, but like this beautiful black dragon. But all we could see was his head. Just beautiful, bright, piercing red eyes, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, Benny, can you see what I see? He's like, oh, you mean the giant black dragon in the corner of the room? Yeah. No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's also too, in the astral, you get a sense of scale. Like, Abaddon is fucking huge. I mean, it's like just talking about a mountain-sized entity with like the wingspan of a 747, and it's just like, I think I likened it, I was in chat, I think I likened it to if Mount Doom and an Ent had a baby, if you're into Lord of the Rings.
But Jennifer, if you think about it, would you prefer to see them the way you see them, or would you prefer to have to do all the work to make it happen to see them?
I like being able to see them inside my head.
There you go. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not taking away.
Working in the astral and in that state, like I feel like you just experience so much more with them, and you really see like the dynamics, especially if you're working with multiple entities at the same time, how they interact with each other, and sometimes they're total assholes to each other.
Yes.
Like trying to do something, and Belial like yells at Beelzebub, like, "Oh, shut up!" What do you call him? King of Planet Slug or something like that.
Well, like, remember when? So when we were all like doing the Sister Witches Conclave, we were all doing, like our own various things of protection, and I was doing mine, and I was doing it astrally, and although I had some physical implementations that I was working with, I was doing the actual ritual astrally. And I started off with Lucifer and Arachne, and by the time I was done, there was a total of 13 spirits that had, totally shown up for this. And I was just like, okay, I guess we're having a party. Like, I had no idea that was going to happen,
Like rave night, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Yeah. It's amazing. So.
I mean, I guess being an astral magician, we take advantage of some of the things that we can see that some other magicians cannot, because of the fact that we have the ability to open up our head and allow our brains to shut up a minute and bring those things about. Right. And I think that's the toughest part for most people that have just begun doing or beginning astral work, is that they can't get their head to shut the fuck up.
Or you're not sure what you're supposed to see. Because when I really first started getting into it, when I was working with Lilith, it's like the first few times it was like I was just seeing sort of like shapes and shadows and color, but nothing had really like come into like a crystallized vision. But then all of a sudden, boom, it was like everything was just like, Hollywood cinematography,
Wow.
But I also think that had to do with the fact that you had, the magic was always there for you.
Yeah.
You just needed time to put it all into motion, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
for
it's
me,
like,
like when
we've been waiting for you for quite some time now. Thanks for finally arriving.
yes, yes, yes.
I know a few times when I've
When I
gotten
was
like distracted in the astral and like, pop like, oh yeah, blah blah blah, thinking about, the laundry list or of things to do and stuff, and like I'll come back and Belial and Azazel will just be like, I was like, oh no, don't worry, we'll wait.
I know. When they get mad at me, they call me by my full name, Vincent, and they they tease me. They go, "Yeah, we know your mother called you Vincent when she was mad at you, but we figured that would at least get your attention." So okay, so thank you, Vincent, for showing. We've been waiting here long enough. Can we get going now? So forth, so on.
yeah.
So what advice would you have to anyone who's struggling, or like, because sometimes I will be like, I just can't get my brain in the right, frame of mind to do astral work. So if like, as people are working on, like, I don't want people to get discouraged if they're like, oh, I've made this great breakthrough and now I've had nothing for like weeks or something.
Right.
I think the biggest thing for me was to learn how to relax. So if you're having sit down and have a cup of coffee or have a cup of tea. For me, coffee relaxes me. Some people it's tea, you know. Some people it's weed. Whatever it means for you to really relax. Because once you relax, I believe then the mind relaxes, and then once you can get your mind to relax, things are possible.
Oh yeah.
And listen, we all know that even if you relax your mind, it's not going to happen for someone right away. And if it does, great. That wasn't me. It took me, I've been at this 30 some odd years. It took me a long time, right? For me, now it's like blinking an eye, or drinking a quick cup of coffee. It's so
Yeah.
simple for me. Sometimes it's hard for me to explain to somebody how to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Like when I first started doing it, like I remember explaining to them, I'm like, hey guys, by the way, sometimes I get thirsty and I have to go pee. So, eventually they kind of trained me to be able to go do that stuff while still like, and not, lose
yes,
Yes.
the astral thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, gotta pee. Sorry. Human
exactly.
body.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll be, in the restroom and you have to do astral magic. And it's funny because I'll say to them, please disregard where my physical body is at. Like, the mind is where we need to be right now,
Yeah.
But I think, like, my biggest piece of advice for anybody would be number one, don't take it so seriously. Don't take yourself so seriously. Don't put limits on anything because literally anything can happen.
Yeah.
So don't try and have like specific expectations, and also trust yourself. You have to trust yourself because if you're experiencing something, it doesn't matter what it is. There's something in it for you. There's something to be gained from that.
Yeah, because and then also talking to other people in the community and stuff. Because when I was first starting to experience some of this stuff, I'm like, okay, clearly I'm going back crap crazy, and I'm like, what the fuck is this shit going on? Like when I was working with Belial and stuff, I'm like, yeah, there were times where I feel like they were doing like Belial and Azazel were doing this like psychic surgery stuff on me, and they're like, oh yeah, they were just like removing the junk DNA or activate whatever it is with that. I'm like, oh okay, well there you go then. That explains that. Not completely crazy, or we're all collectively crazy, and hey,
That's very interesting to say that because there are times where I feel like someone is performing surgery on my body while I'm awake. And okay, something must be happening like where I don't know about it, but someone's doing something. Hopefully it's, nothing nefarious and, whatever. I don't know. So it's interesting that you say that. So maybe that's what's going on.
And I guess it's not the first time I've been called crazy, so
yeah, I mean, same
being
here.
crazy, I think being crazy is a good thing.
Yeah, being crazy is not all
all
that far for me because I've been crazy for a long time. So,
I think it's interesting though, because like having struggled with mental illness, like I can tell what is the difference between the work that I'm doing and like a full on like psychotic delusional break. You know the difference
There's
because you can't distinguish
Right,
yeah. No
reality
question.
from the psychotic
Yeah.
break. I can
Yep.
distinguish
No
reality
question
from what
about
I'm doing magically.
right.
No question about it. And you can actually, knowing what you know and knowing how to do it, you can tell. I bet you can walk up to somebody and know, even though that they don't know, that they're gonna have a problem today because of whatever's going on within their surroundings at the present moment. Because I know I can walk up to somebody and tell them that they may be having a bad day today because of what they have going on.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found that? Or
Oh
is it
yeah.
just
Sometimes they'll tell you things, or they'll be like, there was it was over the summer, and I think it may have been Lucifer initially, kind of gave me the sort of warning signal that something either had happened or was about to happen to this particular person, which then I found out at that precise time. And then it was like, I had to go through this whole thing of where I had to go do basically like rescue the person's soul from the abyss. So I had to do all this work with like Lucifer, Belial, and
yeah?
Azazel kind of tinkered to make it be able to go into the abyss to do the retrieval and all the healing stuff that I did in the Astral Temple. And came to find out later that this person was injured at that time in an accident. And I was like, that's interesting timing wise. And
Yeah.
after we talked about it, because I had worked with Lucifer to see, I'm like, can you show me what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And then when the person described to me what happened, it was pretty much exactly what Lucifer showed me.
That's incredible.
Well,
That's
I may have
cool.
seen it from a slightly different angle or perspective, but I'm like, okay, that's exactly what they showed me. Okay.
It's very cool when you get that validation.
It's
Astral
hard
work.
to,
You know?
I also try to explain that to someone. I'm like, okay, I'm totally not crazy, and I need you to take a leap of faith here, but
Yeah.
Sometimes, it's funny that you say, you had to say to somebody, you need to take that leap of faith for a second, because what I'm about to tell you, you're not going to believe. I found myself doing that a lot over the years, so it's nice to hear someone else, have to use that same.
He used to always know everything before it was going to happen, like just certain things, and
Yeah,
he would tell me.
when we first got together,
He would drive
nuts.
me insane. I would be like, why in the hell do you know all this stuff? Like, what? Yeah, okay, Vinny, you don't know magic. Okay. It drove me nuts. And, like, I didn't understand it for the longest time until it started happening to me. And then I was like, oh, okay, now I understand, like, why. And if you keep quiet and don't say anything, then you're the asshole. Like, you can't not tell people things to try and help them because then that makes you, like, not a good person. You can't do that. So.
Believe me, there are a few.
It doesn't make you very popular with your friends, by the way, when you have to tell them, hi, your man's cheating on you and this and this and this. And they're like, well, how do you know? How do you know? Just call it a hunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I really told you, you wouldn't believe me anyway.
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. Because if I really told you, you would be like, no way. It's not possible.
Yeah, it's I'm constantly amazed at the things that I've experienced and seen, and just like I feel like I've learned like 3 lifetimes worth of knowledge in like the past year.
Yeah.
And made more progress in my self-work and who I am. Like, I'm not the person I was a year ago, even by a long shot. Just with really kind of delving in, and each experience has been different. Like, and some I've worked with more than others. Like Mael just kind of showed up and was like, I'm just going to drop some snarky bits of wisdom and knowledge on you. And then we're going to watch storm videos on YouTube. And he liked the hurricanes and tornadoes. He was not impressed by the dust devil videos. I'm like, storm gods, so picky.
Yeah. I mean, I get that.
Dust devils are goofy looking. They're just like
It seemed like it should be like really impressive, and you're just like, oh.
Paimon was one of those entities that was more. He as a king, he was very, royal, but he put it down in perspective I could really get. Do you know what I mean? He gave me that. For some reason, he gave me the New York attitude and the East Coast vibe that I really needed on the West Coast. Do you know what I'm saying? Gave me a feeling of home, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
And he and I working together forever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seems like forever, but for some time now. But he really made it made the West Coast feel like home for me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, it's like they're always with you now. Whether you do some
Yeah.
big fancy ritual or anything, it's just kind of like you start to realize that they're always there now.
Yeah, there's a handful that are always there, no matter. When I close my eyes, I know exactly who's going to be there, so to speak. It's whether or not you want to interact with them. But if you do, you know they're not that far away.
Or sometimes you're working with one, and then like I think I was working with Shemyaza, and then Azazel comes and is like, "Quick, we have to go!" and like grabs me, and we go running off somewhere, like on some like important mission thing.
What I don't know if this is the same for you, but if I need to work with Lucifer, he's literally my eyes closing away. It's not that far away. You know what I mean? It's like tying my shoes. Do you know what I mean? It's that simple. Do you find that the same thing?
Yeah.
If you work with
I just
an
got the
entity
little like tingle up the back, and like because usually like the spirit things, it's like I always get like the cold tingle up the back that goes down my shoulder blades.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
That's cool. I know like everyone has like a different thing. For me, it feels like the back of my brain
Sometimes I try to get
becomes
like
ice cold.
like that nice little kind of like scalp massage, like right back here.
Yeah. And like for me, it lasts for like only like, I don't know, maybe like 10 seconds or something. But it happens, and it's just really crazy.
Yeah.
I get the shadow in the peripheral vision. I get the tiny shadow in the peripheral vision. And that's how I know that it's time to, or whoever's here is here. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so like when it comes to different spirits, like having their different ways of like letting you know they want to work with you or whatever. With Hecate, like I'll see crows and like just a whole bunch of crows will be somewhere like unusual and be like, okay, she wants to speak with me. Okay, fine. But with with Arachne, it was very different. She gave me a tarantula familiar.
Oh, terrible.
And it lives in my chest.
Terrible.
Okay?
Terrible.
And when I see her, that's when Arachne wants to work with me. Usually I'm like coming to her so she doesn't have to do that. But I talk with her every single day, so it's not like she has to really use it that often.
I said to Marissa, are you going to go sleep on the couch now? Because I don't like spiders. So you can go sleep on the couch now.
Yeah.
And don't work with Arachne and Beelzebub at the same time. The whole spider goddess and Lord of the Flies.
Well, I've become a better fan of spiders. I used to be terrified of them, but I recently did working with Arachne, and she made it much easier for me to uh, tolerate spiders. I'll say tolerate because do I like them? No. Do I tolerate them? Yes. Out of respect for her. That's about as far as I can go.
Yeah.
But it's it's tough when you want to work with the goddess of the universe, and her major form is a 8.5 foot spider, and you're terrified of said being.
Yeah,
and
but that's part of the work. Is kind of overcoming the fears and limitations and stuff like that.
I've worked with a lot of entities, but she was the last one that I've ever had to work with because so terrified of the fear of a spider that I waited this long to work with her, 30 some odd years. And I'm sad to say that. I'm sad to admit that, but it's true.
Be happy that she showed you her mini spider form.
Yeah, because I think I would have shit myself, to be quite honest.
Because her actual spider form is enormous.
Enormous. Terrifying. And Belial laughs at me because, he knows that,
While.
he laughs at me and makes fun of me because, you've done so many things in your so many years of working with all of us, and that little fire makes you cringe in fear. Ha ha, something stupid, because he sounds, Belial to me sounds like um the old Jewish guy in the corner that, that sat outside the Jewish deli, on the corner in Brooklyn. That's what he sounds like to me every time he talks to me for whatever reason. And anytime he makes fun of me, that's what he sounds like. The old Jew
See, then it
that's
goes
got
to your lived experience and your frame of reference on things that they're going to kind of appear to you in that
exactly.
way.
Yes. The
He's
frame of
pulling up
reference.
something in your mind and kind of.
The old Jewish guy that knows everything on the corner, knows everybody on the block. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. And
Yeah.
he always has a snarky comment to say to you, because he knows that he watched you fall on your ass, but he'll never say nothing to you until he's got an opportunity to make fun of you. You know what I mean? So yeah, I get what you mean as far as your frame of reference.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
Yeah, because I mean,
because he knows I have that.
having grown up in Brooklyn, I wouldn't have had that lived experience or frame of reference to kind of apply it to that. So, I mean, that's something that would be unique to your experience with Belial.
Right.
And sort of getting
Right.
people, I think what people, I guess maybe the takeaway kind of, sort of in kind of wrapping up, the sort of doing astral work is people, I guess, learning to trust their intuition and their instincts and
Yeah.
what they're learning and being able to be comfortable talking about it within the community with other practitioners and things like that, because there's always that doubt. It's like, oh, I'm is the great word that gets thrown around is unverified personal gnosis and stuff like that. And
Oh yeah. It
and
doesn't matter. It's your own gnosis. You know what I
right.
mean? It has to be something that you feel is verified. You don't have to have the world verify your gnosis for it to
Right.
mean something.
But when talking, we all start coming upon these similar patterns or ways they show up, the type of work they do, the things they say, how they say it. So, and it's all going to be kind of different, but it all fits together in part of a bigger
Right.
structure.
Right.
So, I mean, I came out of being sort of a hardcore atheist for most of my life. It's like I was kind of practicing magic, but not working with any entities.
Right.
Or because I just having grown up Roman Catholic mostly and stuff, I was just like, nope.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
And the
And like, it's
crucifix
still
being
even
in the
hard for
house.
me to start working with. I started initially working with Lilith, and then just kind of opened up the floodgates from there. And it took me a little bit to get into that.
Mm-hmm. I love Lilith. Yeah, Vinny was saying that. Yeah, that is one of Asenath Mason's prints. It's beautiful.
Behind your head, right?
Behind you. Yeah.
Yeah, the Scarlet Natrix. Yeah, I have the Hecate over there and a couple other ones around. I even got the Arachne one. I have some empty wall space right there.
We have the Arachne one, but I need to find a frame for it. I love that one. It's beautiful.
I usually just get like black poster frames on Amazon for cheap.
Yeah, and we probably will. I just want to have like probably, I don't know, some kind of either plastic or glass in front of it so it doesn't get splattered near the kitchen table, something like that.
Because of the kids. Yeah, because of the kids being kids. Or the cats being cats.
Yeah, whatever.
Cats.
Trying to eat cats. My cats do strange things.
The cat wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my cats do.
Well, I guess we can wrap up a little, but thank you so much for joining us. And this is a really amazing conversation. And, I love talking about astral stuff, and I know a lot of people are really interested in learning more. And because I get like so many personal messages from people about like, oh, can you talk more about astral temples, or comments on my videos and things.
I
So
get
I mean,
that a lot too.
great.
I get that a lot too. We just don't have. There's not enough time in the day to talk to as many people that want to talk to us.
I feel
That's the
that.
problem that we have. We just don't have enough time in it. You know, because we're designing this for this one. We're doing that for that one. We're trying to do this for us. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I'm
Yeah.
sure you don't have enough time in the day to get, your own stuff done, let alone trying to do stuff for others, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel that.
So
Cool.
it's tough.
So thank
But
you
we
both.
had a great time.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you both for joining. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. And I will put links below to your website and any social media links that you would like to share.
Yeah.
Thank
As
you so much.
awesome.